Hey, everybody. Welcome in. It's Thursday. I thought it was Wednesday for a minute. And we are back at a time where bad news is bad news again. The market has been hit by a lot of economic woes and some other fears that are going on right now out there, out and about. So let's try break it all down and try find some signal, some pattern in the noise, because everybody's wondering, where is the support level for Bitcoin right now? Let's break it all down. And thank you as well to Sean Donnelly and TND Tesla and Des and Namibia and everybody for coming. So first of all, the economic woes drove Bitcoin below 63K. I can't remember how low we went today, about 62 and change. Let me have a quick look, a quick peek. 62.2 we hit today, which shattered a lot of people. But the concern is market turbulence. The ISM manufacturing PMI fell way below expectations. It was 46.8 versus 48.8, which basically means the manufacturing in this country is shrinking, and that worries people. Also, new orders were in the toilet. Nobody's ordering stuff. And I even read a report that there's a very bad chocolate company in the US called Hershey's, which isn't actually apparently chocolate, but their sales have crashed because people can't afford chocolate anymore, so things are bad. The question is, has Jerome gone too far? We think so. Anyway, happy Thursday. Market's now 2.26 trillion. It was 2.4 trillion a few days ago. Volume is high, nearly 90 billion. Bitcoin, Bitcoin rebounded $700. That's pretty good. Literally, when I wrote this, it was 63, so it's up $700. And fear and greed is back to 52, which is kind of like neutral. Let's jump in. We have a lot of slides to get through. We have 40 nuggets. And this is not financial advice. And shout out to Patreon as well to make all this possible. From Starwell Tax and Biz Info says, I'm happy I joined Patreon this month. We are very happy to have you too. Thank you for being part of the team. Let's jump ahead and get straight into the news. There's a lot going on. And we try and decipher it, okay? First of all, MicroStrategy earnings just came out literally minutes ago. And they're bad. But the problem is you have to understand how earnings work, because they look at earnings per share. The expected numbers was minus $1. It came in at nearly minus $6. That's a miss. And revenue, 121 million was the expectation, came in at 111. So earnings are down a little bit, down a lot actually. But the problem is they have to book the losses on Bitcoin over the last 90 days. That's what probably you're seeing here. I haven't had a chance to dig into the reports yet because I've been so busy. But literally, bloody hell, Bitcoin just shot above 64K. It's because the good literally it's just gone straight up vertical as I'm talking to you all here. Now, there's other stuff concerning the market too. It goes without saying, hat tip to Lashir for this. Iran has officially informed the United States or the United Nations of its intent to carry out retaliatory action of self-defense against Israel in accordance with the Article 51 of the UN Charter. Again, nobody likes this stuff. Nobody likes war. I definitely do not. I hate this stuff. But Bitcoin does like a crisis. It typically does very well in crisis. It might dip a little bit, and then the world realizes, okay, we need a life raft, and then they jump into Bitcoin. That's just the pattern it's been the last 4 years. And another news, too, that has rattled markets, yet not that much. Mt. Gox still hodling strong so far. They moved now 3 billion, as I mentioned. A lot has been distributed, but the creditors are not selling. And Mt. Gox apparently have 2.1 billion left, and most are still holding. Mt. Gox has repaid over 17,000 creditors in Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, but still holds about 32,000 worth $2.1 billion. So again, it's one of those things that everybody is very worried about, as well as the movement of the US government Bitcoin too. That brings things down. But you've got to get used to the whipsaw of what is Bitcoin and this type of volatility in markets. And it's fun to time. And this is kind of funny. It's a bit of a joke, tongue-in-cheek from Ash Crypto. But Jim Cramer says, August is bearish for Bitcoin. I did an analysis on that. We'll talk more about August and what it could mean for us. But Ash Crypto says, Bitcoin new all-time high is now confirmed in August. And I have another person as well coming up who says the same thing. We'll break it all down. We get into the charts. And also, Russia just did it. I was expecting this law to pass in September. Well, they do not let the grass grow under their feet in Russia. The central bank governor, Elvira, basically has this thing now. It's experimental infrastructure for these payments, but they will use Bitcoin, and this will help them overcome secondary sanctions, and this will help them do business with other parts of the world, including places like El Salvador. So again, this is good for Bitcoin. Bypass the traditional financial rails and other things if you need to too. And in a little bit of proxy news, beyond MicroStrategy, Cleanspark executes 75 megawatts of power contracts in Wyoming. Remember, Wyoming is a crypto-friendly place. They have added enough capacity to expand at least 2 to 3 exahashes before the end of the year. And that's not much time left for that, 5 months or so. And the location in Cheyenne is planned to operate as a fully immersion-cooled site. And they intend to employ the new S21 Immersion XPs, the most powerful and efficient generation of Bitcoin mining machines currently available. And they'll be adding another 3 exahash as well as they expand more in Wyoming. Good news. And it's interesting because with the Bitcoin miners, a lot of interest in HPC side rails, but I like the way Cleanspark is sticking to their knitting. Maybe when the bear market comes, if they have some excess capacity, they can pivot. But right now, the focus should be being the best Bitcoin miner, the leanest, most efficient, etc. It's not the only data center type play that's using water cooling as well. Austin, Texas is building a massive, the biggest kind of water temperature cooler I think ever built in the history of the world. So it helps save power. Anyway, back to some Tether news as well. From Bitcoin News, Tether's Q2 2024 attestation reveals they hold $4.7 billion in Bitcoin. And they also announced a new all-time high in direct and indirect US Treasury holdings at nearly $100 billion, more than Germany, more than the UAE, more than Australia. That's big. But there's more. And again, we don't know what people are guessing here. But speaking of Tether, again from Bitcoin News, July 29th, Mr. 100 Bitcoin address reported holdings of $4.74 billion worth of Bitcoin. And this is nearly identical to the $4.73 billion worth of Bitcoin reported in Tether's Q2 attestation. We all know, by the way, that per Arkham, it's an Upbit wallet. But the behavior is very strange, and sometimes there's no such thing as coincidence. And the activity on this wallet is very DCA-like. And I did mention Mr. 100 sold. Whoever the wallet is, I don't know. Doesn't look like a cold storage wallet for a centralized exchange. Also, Upbit has been shrinking and has not been growing. But guess what? Mr. 100 just bought 200 more. They're back in the game. They sold at 69K and they just bought back in at 63, 64K. So that's interesting. But who knows? Who knows who this is? Hopefully we'll find out in due course. Anyway, on to more stuff. Liquidations. The longs were liquidated hard because of all this fear in the market. 24-hour X, 302 million, of which was basically all longs. If you look at this liquidation chart from Binance, you can see, from CoinGlass, I should say, everything's been wiped out. Now, after that happens, typically we go up from here. And they've taken everything down to 62,200. The question is, what happens next? All the action is to the right. So they can go after the shorts. Maybe. We shall see. We'll look at some technical charts in a minute to decipher whether or not we have a support level. Also, bond market does not lie. This is another thing that's rattling the market too. Bond traders are fully pricing in 3 Fed rate cuts this year. And as I always say, the bond market doesn't lie. And the 10-year fell below 4%. What's happening? And why do we care? Because, get this, people say, why do we care about interest rates and stuff like that in the Fed? Well, if there's no money made on holding fiat, people look for risk assets like Bitcoin. So when the rates drop, more money seeks out alpha in other places like disruption, tech stocks, Bitcoin. That's why we like it. That's why we watch. And the Bank of England, shout out to everyone in the UK. Sean Donnelly, I see you out there. The Kobasi letter said the Bank of England just cut interest rates by 25 basis points in their first rate cut since 2020. And remember the time when all of the central banks were coordinating? They'd have little, what's your name? Lagarde would be on the phone with JP, would be on the phone with the guy in Bank of England, who I don't remember the name of, be on the phone with Bank of Japan saying, let's coordinate some moves here, ladies and gentlemen. Well, you'll see what's happening. Another interesting Bitcoin news. There was Trump had some Bitcoin branded sneakers and they sold out in minutes. And these are $500 sneakers. But anyway, Bitcoin, gold, running shoes are very popular. You would never see me wearing such things. Obviously, if you have Bitcoin, you don't talk about Bitcoin. It's like, look at me, I got Bitcoin sneakers I spent $500 on. Anyway, people are people. What are you going to do? Yes, let's get into the charts. I'm going to break down some interesting stuff here. And this is kind of crazy because my theme this morning was the support level. I wish the market didn't rebound so fast. Anyway, Bitcoin has been up 14 of the last 19 months, basically since January 2023. Bitcoin had 5 negative monthly closes and 14 positive ones, and Bitcoin is up ROI of 320% already since January 2023. Yes, July wasn't that exciting, but it still was up 5.75%. And so far, the Bitcoin monthly candle for August is a little bit red, but we'll get to that later. What I'm more interested in is what happens in August. We know August and September are the 2 worst months for Bitcoin. But let's try decipher a trend here. Tweeted this out last night. But only 3 times in the past has a positive July, yes, we had a positive July, led to a negative August. So those are good betting odds. Also take into account we're in the bull run year, 2024, just like 2020, just like 2016, just like 2012. 2012 was just bonkers the whole year. 2016, we had a weak July and a weak August. 2020, we had a bonkers July up 24% and a positive August. And 2024, we shall see. But if history repeats and these patterns hold, August may not be as bad as you think. But there's more. Let's get a feel. This is from Nick at Econometrics. He put this beautiful chart together with the numbers and everything else, so I didn't have to do it. So thank you for that. But here, 2024 so far, zooming into the months, it's funny, everything is red. I'd normally, Nick, if you're listening, I'd make the positive stuff green and the negative stuff red. It's just more logical. But when you see red, you think it's negative, in my mind. But so far, only 2 negative months so far this year. And it's a bull year too. Another view of this as well is support. Do we have a support level? I think I do. Check this out. This is potential Bitcoin support level. By the way, these are daily candles. So, and you can see exactly the tails of where they are. And I forgot to draw the big red line in, but basically, per this chart, there's very, very strong support for Bitcoin at 63,000. Unfortunately, when I made this chart, it was at 63,000. Now it's already gone up $1,300. Ugh! In an hour. It's crazy. Anyway, support. Maybe 63 is really a safe place to put your toe in the water, ladies and gentlemen. Big time. And Henrik agrees on the support level. Henrik is from Swissblock, and he had a cool little TA chart, and it looks like he's doing a bit of Wyckoff stuff with the expansion layers, the 5 steps. Now we're in this next layer 2, where we are going to rebound off this 63 level up. And he says he predicts a new all-time high in Bitcoin in 10 days. I don't see that happening, to be honest. But you know what? Bitcoin did just add $1,300 in an hour. So it does move fast when it wants to. There's just the question is, who is stacking? Let's try answer that question now from Vivek. Largest whale buying ever since October 2014. We're going back 11 years to ever see this amount. Large holders accumulated 84,000 Bitcoin in July, the highest since 2014. By the way, this is one of the statistics that I talked about in the top and bottom indicator yesterday or the day before. I don't remember which day. Every day is a blur to me. But remember, we went to orange, which is kind of a time to stop DCAing, and then we shot back to yellow because of NVTS, because of large whale buying. Normally, when the whales are selling, that will flip the color red or orange. But not here. When they're buying, it's still very bullish, ladies and gentlemen. So that's good news. And it's not just record-breaking whale buying. We have Blackrock are buying today from Arkham Research just in. While Bitcoin is dumping, Blackrock continues to buy more Bitcoin, snagging a couple of hundred Bitcoin right here, as you can see on the chart. It's good that they've identified the wallet. I will dig more into that wallet later and find out exactly what their holdings are. I know they have multiple wallets. And back to this. Why do we care about rates? Because when rates go down, people will seek alpha. This is from Bach, 50 basis rate cut. Odds jump. I shared a similar chart yesterday, and it was about 16% odds of a 50 basis point cut. Now it's gone to 22.5%. So basically, it's going up fast because the market, the economy is in a shambles. It's grinding to a halt. Even though the job market data can sometimes appear to be positive, it's always fake because it's a lot of gig jobs. And also they revise the jobs down every single time 12 weeks later. So ignore that. But the real fact of the matter is industry is grinding to a halt. Chocolate sales are crashing. Maybe the Fed waited too long. The Bank of England didn't. Bank of England know they're in hot water, so they cut. Anyway, let's look at another chart from Marty, friend of the channel. This is the 5-year yield on the 8-hour chart. It just tanked to 3.8%. Again, it shows you the bond market never lies. This is now priced in a big way. And for those who are looking for a house, mortgage rates have dropped to their lowest levels since Feb, after the Federal Reserve set a stage for a September interest rate cut. The average rate on the 30-year fixed mortgage rate fell to 6.73%, down from nearly 7% a week earlier. And the average rate on the 30-year fixed was about 6.9%. So it's coming down. You know, typically there's a delta of 150, 200 basis points between the 10-year and then the 30-year mortgage rate. But again, more to come real fast. By the way, there's a lot of chatter as well about, on Twitter and everything else. It's like, when the Fed cuts rates, is that bad for markets? I will do an analysis on that because it depends on what you are in and what the situation the economy is in. If it is like a global financial crisis, even at that, yes, markets can get whacked. If it's .com bust, yes, markets can get whacked. But there are some situations where certain assets actually really, really need rate cuts, and they go up regardless of what the economy is doing. So watch for that soon too. And don't forget, Bitcoin and Proxies playlist. It will be here. And at the end of the video too, you can sign up for it. Let's look at the black hole that's sucking in all the Bitcoin. And see, we had the weirdest day ever yesterday. Well, first of all, day 140 of these ETFs, only 2 negative days in the last 19 days. That's very, very positive. But the funny thing is the amount of positive yesterday was only $300,000, like 5 Bitcoin worth. So it was just, it's like when a candle, let me show you a candle example of where it just makes it green. So if you look here at, a monthly candle. So if you look here, there's a couple of little green slivers you can't even see. I think Feb 2023 was just up 0.5%. Also, January 2024 or December 2024, just fractional. So watch those candles very carefully to get a feel for exactly what's going on. But this was a positive day, which we'll take. Soul Strider, thank you for coming. Another view of the world. You can see BlackRock has really stalled. They're buying after a lot of big buying. This is what I refer to as the third big accumulation phase. And we're still early. Remember, it's summer. This is nuts. Bitcoin's up $1,600 in the last hour. Just straight up. Anyway, what a recovery. And day 140 is positive, but again, a tiny amount. And only 5 Bitcoin were taken from the system. I do not remember ever doing this for 140 days now, where so little were bought or sold by all these ETFs. It's basically break even, but it's positive, so we'll take that as a win. And we have another interesting development as well happening. In case you missed it, Grayscale have launched their mini GBTC, which the ticker is BTC. So now they have GBTC and their mini GBTC. So what I'm doing from now on in is I am adding the dumpage from GBTC, if there is any, and netting it off with the flow into the BTC fund. And when you look at the net of those two, it's up $18 million yesterday back into Grayscale, which is like their 7th largest day ever in the history of these ETFs since January 11th, 2024. Not going back, of course, all the years, 7 or 8 years. But that is big. So shout out to Grayscale, taking their fees back down to normal levels. Maybe this will cease the bleed. And remember, if Fidelity is buying and Blackrock are buying and the bleed stops over here because of the crazy rates, we could be set up for a pretty nice end of year run. Anyhow, thank you all for coming. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hit the like if you did. And there's like 7,000 beautiful people out there watching. Thank you all for coming. It's quite remarkable. The actual rebound from Bitcoin is insane right now. So yes, the markets react to scary news, but Bitcoin loves a crisis. Thanks all. Have a good day. Thank you to mods in chat, TND Tesla, K8, Sean Donnelly, and everybody else for coming. And of course, Soul Strider and the whole gang. Have a good night.